All right.
We're live.
We're back. We're live. We're in the penthouse tonight, and I've got Hunter McCamey here with me as always. What?
I'm back.
You're back. I wouldn't say always,
I missed an episode.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Guff stood in.
He did, and he did a great job.
Yeah.
He did. It was nice having him. Hopefully you guys loved Jamaica or Puerto Rico or any of the islands that you visited on your jaunt. So, yeah. All right. So we're going to do skeleton style reel seats, right?
Yeah, skeleton style. So like, we'll show a couple different brands on tonight's show. We'll show you guys obviously the different types of, multi-piece seats. And
yep.
We could call them several different things. We could call them two-piece, skeleton, multi-piece, a couple different options there, right?
Minimalistic, whatever.
Yeah. We're going to talk about how to pick the right one for your application, right? Mm-hmm. These are very popular for obviously ultralight rods. Any rod you're trying to shave some weight, obviously they're two-piece for a reason. They eliminate the weight, so a great feature there.
No doubt. And of course, for those that like to get a little extra decorative, it allows you some space in there to do some cross wraps, add some trim bands, trim rings, abalone.
Winding checks.
Yeah.
We got some decorative inserts we're going to show later.
Yep.
A couple different features there.
Sweet. So we've got some giveaways too, though.
We do.
Because I know people, they show up for the demos, but they stay for the giveaways.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we have, one of our first giveaways, we're going to do a couple of CRB skeleton style seats.
Cool.
We got the casting one. Obviously, we got a spinning version.
Yep. So that's the
spinning version.
The SXO and the CXO.
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken.
You got it.
Perfect.
Yep.
And the second giveaway.
Yeah, the second giveaway is going to be an SK2 color reel seat.
Yeah.
So cool option there.
Pretty expensive too.
Yeah. And then we're also going to be throwing in some pro paste and some plastic mixing dishes with that giveaway as well.
Why not?
Yeah. So that's
your credit card.
Yeah, and that's the runner-up. And then grand prize, we have a CRB Color Series kit, and of course we're going to throw in a skeleton seat, so maybe some matching winding checks.
Yeah, why not?
Some good stuff.
We'll spiff it up just a little bit for the show, for sure. So, I guess is that all the? I think that's all the housekeeping we got to do before the intro.
Yeah.
We good?
Think
we ready to do this? Jay, Steve, how about it? Why don't we go ahead and hit it?
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
All right, we're back. Skeleton style reel seats tonight on the show, and it is episode 71.
Very cool. So before we dive into the demos and all that good stuff about the skeleton seats, we got to talk about two fairly new products.
Pretty spiffy.
One just came out basically last week.
Yep.
Right? And one we've had for a couple weeks now.
Perfect.
So going to the first one is our CRB Pro tip gauge, right? Tip and guide gauge, which you'll notice right off the bat is this awesome blue anodized color. It's all aluminum.
Yeah, so it's not gonna, chip or flake or peel or anything. It's not painted. It is anodized aluminum.
Exactly. And as you guys can see, we have a nice little ruler straight edge on top, which could be used for a lot of good things.
Yep.
We have all the tip measurements, the guide measurements, and then if you flip it to the back.
Ooh.
We got some good info back here. How to measure, how to match up, millimeters for your tip sizes, which can be a very confusing thing, because there is a difference there. And of course, we have some millimeter and centimeter measurements as well to go along with your ruler.
Perfect. Well, that makes it easy. It'll keep you from having to go to Google every time that you need to do millimeters to 64ths of an inch for that. And it does. All the way down to 3 for a tip top, and up pretty large there, up to a size 30 guide as well. So that's something to have on the workbench for sure when somebody brings you a broken guide, busted out tip top, any of that stuff, it'll get you headed in the right direction very quickly without having to fumble around with some stuff or
Yep.
buy too many guides when you're going, well, I don't know, is that a 25 or a 30? So
Exactly.
that's pretty cool to have.
Also comes in this wooden case, so you don't have to worry about finding somewhere to put it. You know, you always can put it back in the case, protects it, makes it last a whole longer.
Excellent. Now we got a new one too.
This is the newer product, right? This one came out last week. This is the blank extension tool set.
Right.
Right. So before we had just the one size of the blank extension tool.
Yep.
Now
And
we
it was
have,
plastic.
And it was plastic. Now we have two sizes, right? And obviously, like you said, they are aluminum. They match the cool blue CRB Pro blue, I guess we could say.
Yep.
Right. And these will handle, you know, blanks anywhere from down to an ultralight, a fly rod, all the way up to your surf rods, your offshore rods,
Yep.
anything in between.
Yeah, I want to say that it's somewhere in the smallest it does is like 0.1.
Okay.
And then we're talking in inches here. So it will be 0.100, and then it goes up to like 545 or something like that, I believe. That's just offhand, but all of those specifications are on mudhole.com under that new item there.
Yep. And these also will fit the, you know, the RDS,
Yes.
the chuck.
Exactly.
Right, so it will slip right in there, keeps it nice and secure. And again, with these being aluminum, they're going to last a lifetime. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And of course that also fits in the wire chuck as well. So the wire chuck will pinch that just as easy as it will go into the rubber chuck, as you mentioned, that, you know, we all know and love from way back, for sure.
You got it.
Cool. So is that it for
That's all I got
for the
for
new
today,
products? Those are
but yeah,
pretty sporty though.
That's the kickoff of the CRB Pro brand itself. So,
I love
two products there we got. But definitely good things to have on your workbench for sure.
No doubt. All right, so breaking news. We have a contest that is going to go really just for the show viewers.
Okay.
And March this past month was Mudhole's biggest month ever. All right, so Brooke and Tom came in and were like, hey, why don't we see if the viewers on the Mudhole Live show can guess the number of pounds that we shipped in the month of March.
Okay.
So we were able to go through and look at our, you know, all the billing that went through FedEx and United States Postal Service and all that stuff. So we added all that up, Brooke did today, and he came up with a number. And it's in pounds, and it's a pretty solid number.
It's a lot.
Yeah, pretty solid number. So I've got the number there. You guys don't know it, and I'm not going to tell you. So we are going to be giving away just a Mudhole gift pack. So that's something that we'll go through, put on your credit card. We'll go a little shopping down in the showroom. We'll put some stuff together, put out a care package. So all you need to do is, whether you're on Facebook right now or in YouTube, you can just put your guess in the comments. We're guessing in pounds here. Just put them in the comments. We're going to let everybody who watches it live, the people that have to watch it a little bit later tonight because maybe they're working or they're in a different area code, different country, you know, they got to work, anything like that. So we're going to do it tomorrow. We'll select the winner tomorrow, and that is guessing the number of pounds we shipped in the month of March. So,
Cool.
pretty neat.
We'll announce a winner tomorrow. And
Yeah, why not?
That's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of good guesses, I'm sure. But
Yeah,
this
and
is a tough one.
It's a good number.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good number. So, all right, well, let's get to the nitty-gritty of it. Tell us a little bit about skeleton seats.
Yeah, so I touched on it a little bit in the intro. You know, one of the biggest things is obviously think of it as like a split grip, right? So, and obviously we don't have one up here. We have some examples, right? But just imagine there's a fighting butt here on the end. You know, the split grip came into to be as a way to kind of shave weight off the end of your rod.
Yeah.
The split seat does the same thing.
Okay.
I mean, you can literally, you know, say this is a full graphite reel seat.
Yep.
With taking out that middle portion, you're probably saving up to maybe 40–50% in weight.
I've
you
been
know?
told 54%.
54%.
I don't know, but
Okay.
I've been told 54%.
That's a great number.
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
go with 54 then.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, weight savings is great because everybody wants, you know, a light rod and not have to worry about fatigue all day. And every little part that you can shave weight on
Why not?
is great, right? So split grip, and do it the same for you know, your reel seat as well. And
Tell me about the sensitivity, though.
So the
'cause
sensitivity,
that's kind of where I'm at on
it's
this.
very true. So, you know, anytime you can actually put your finger on the blank,
Yeah.
there's probably not a better way to have direct contact to the blank, right?
For sure.
And the real seat area, your grip, your handle, is one of the only areas you can do that. Obviously,
Exactly.
obviously we can hold it up here, but that's not where we hold our reel or a rod or you know.
At least not
So
me.
yeah, so holding it here and having a finger directly on that blank, that's about the best contact point you're going to get.
Why
not? And obviously, another great feature of these split skeleton seats is being able to customize them.
Yeah.
We have, you know, for instance, this
Yeah,
one
there's a
right
couple
here.
there.
This is a really cool one you put together. So we have our CRB SXO
Yep.
spinning reel seat, right? We have some CRB snap-in winding checks here to match our wind grip that we put as our rear grip. So you can really get customized. You can do different winding checks in different colors.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of colors in the silicone snap-ins,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Not to put you on the spot,
No,
but
no,
yeah.
you're right, yeah.
There's
And
quite a few.
You can match a lot of these up to one of your CRB blanks,
Right,
right?
no doubt.
Obviously you can do winding checks in here. You know, we have another really cool rod that was built here that has a split seat. We have some aluminum winding checks for this one,
Yeah.
which take a little more detail in measuring and making sure those fit, right?
Yep.
And then also in the middle section of our split seat, we have a cool couple thread wraps in here, and also this matches up, this little portion in the very middle matches up to our grip. So
Yeah.
you can really customize it. You can put decals in here, whether it be a fish decal, maybe you're doing like a college theme rod.
Absolutely.
You can put a college decal in there. You can really get crazy with it and just customize it to whatever rod you're building, or it might be a theme rod.
For sure.
You know, a lot of options there.
Yeah, you know, and then it's one of those deals. I think though you might either love them or hate them. You know.
That's true.
But I really like them. I don't fish them probably as much as I should, but especially on a spinning rod for me, and even a bait caster, it allows you to get on the blank a little more.
Absolutely.
I think, you know, for me, it's not as much as weight savings as it is for the sensitivity aspect of it.
Yep.
You know, kind of get it out in your fingertips, and I think it's cool. And for some of the customers, I've seen some really, really neat stuff inside of there.
Yeah.
You know, in that split. So I think what we're going to do now, let's walk through kind of the basics of putting all these together. We're going to walk you through, you know, the ones that we have. You had mentioned we're talking CRB branded ones.
Yep.
We're talking Fuji branded ones, and then of course we have a Pac Bay branded one.
Right.
So they all kind of have their own little quirks, if you will. You kind of have to attack each one of them a little bit different. As we go through the demo, for those that are either following along on the website, or maybe you have this on a different screen, or if you want to shop some of this stuff tonight, when you go to the website after the show, we have a link and a page specific to all of these products we're using, so you don't have to hunt all over. And that's mudhole.com/MHL for Mudhole Live. So that's all the tools, all the tools, all of the supplies that we're using on the show tonight. They're all in one place right there on the website. So, yeah, perfect.
Yep.
Do you want to go through each seat, kind of their little options and details first, and then we'll dive into it there?
Yeah. So we started with CRB. We've kind of touched on those already.
Yep.
We have a spinning and a casting. The casting is CXO. The spinning is SXO. Right.
Easy enough.
We have those in 3 hood colors. So you have this is the Gunsmoke one.
Yep.
Very sharp. We obviously then have black. Right. There's your black one, and then
I don't think I pulled a polished one.
we don't have a polished one, but that would
Yep.
be your 3rd color option.
Okay.
Right? So coming out of the bag, they're going to be very straightforward. They are ribbed on the inside, so that gets you a little bit better glue contact to your blank, right?
Perfect.
Or Arbor, which
Right.
we're going to hit on in a little bit.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah, you're ready to go. You can customize these with, you know, the winding checks and all that good stuff fits.
Yep.
So these are one size 16, which in this case, at least for me personally, I opt for like a 16 barrel size seat with a skeleton as opposed to a 17.
Sure.
That's just me. But, you know, getting into the Fuji SK2, which is one of the more popular styles of these skeleton seats,
Yeah.
you know, they offer a 16 and a 17 barrel size
Right.
in most of their SK2 seats.
Yeah, and you know, they have so many different options on hood types.
Yes.
So I think that's where the Fuji differs a little bit, because on a casting, so this would be the Fuji SK casting, okay? it's just a rear trigger. They have specific grips made for that. This is actually an MHX version of our Win grip, and we made an SK set to fit the Fuji split seat here. So the differences, though, now shift more to the hood than anything. So this is one of those, really it's a thread cover hood, right?
Right.
So you see this a lot on some of my builds on a spinning rod, but we also have it for a casting setup. So you've got this one here, and then I'll show you a couple other ones. There are ones that have a similar type of a lockdown hood, but they still have an outside nut on them and not just a gripped cover. Yep. So there is this style hood that comes down, and it has a little bit of contour, has a little bit of, you know, a finger groove to it. It's very, very comfortable, but this one has the locking nut. And then we have another style as well that is really just your standard. It looks just like your regular casting seat, but it is, let me put this one on here. So this one here looks like just your regular hood from your regular casting seat, Fuji, whether it's an ECSM or an ACSM, except it's here in a split seat. And then you, of course, have, you know, the trigger seat here, or the trigger rear there. And then, of course, there's some trim rings on this one as well. You know, we actually carry a trim ring here that fits in between the SK style grip and the rear there. So that's a way to dress it up. But those are your different hood styles that you're going to get coming out of the Fuji SK lineup, which is, it's kind of neat because not only do you have the skeleton style seat, but then you can modify it based on maybe you hold your reel a little farther forward and you don't want your, you know, fingers on the threads.
Right.
Maybe, you know, you want it to be a decorative, whether you have like a two-tone EVA that fits over that KSS hood, maybe.
I think so.
They're on the link, so
Yep.
don't worry about me.
Well,
But-
as you mentioned, that there's a ton of
Yeah.
different options. So,
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's part of it there. Now, the main difference in the Pack Bay Minima seat, that seat has a very similar, make sure I don't hit anything here, has a very similar hood and threaded barrel setup. The rear portion is where it's completely different because this rear portion, there are no arbors, there is no, it's fitted to the blank.
Yep.
So when you are measuring for a Pack Bay Minima seat, you have to measure exactly where you want this to be because it slides right into place. You can ream this just a little bit because of the material that the seat is made out of. So if you're in between sizes, maybe a little bit, always go to the smaller one. Yeah. So for example, if when you are buying an MHX blank and you want to get the measurement of the diameter of the blank before you buy it, you can go over to the resources page on the Mudhole website and it will give you in 2-inch increments. And then if you fall in between, because they're in half sizes, so it's a 13, and we'll call it, if it's a 12.5 or a 13, those are the two sizes. If you're falling at like, you know, the 3/4 of that, always go to the half.
Yep.
Don't go to the full size. Go to the half size and then just drill it out just a little bit with, you know, pull one of your extreme reamers. And I knew I was going to hit that board. Pull one of your extreme reamers out and you can kind of touch it up there and slide it down the rest of the way. Because what you don't want it to be is you don't want it to be loose on there because it is fitted.
Yep, absolutely.
So.
That's definitely a good thing to hint on. And, you know, also the Fuji kits, I'm going to show the packaging. I'm not going to open up this brand new kit, but the Fuji kits do come with arbors. That's a very important thing to note. And we'll get into arbors a little bit later, whether you want to use a tape arbor or whether you want to use, you know, whatever. But
for sure.
Those little guys right there are what are included in the Fuji kit, and you will get 2 of those. So it makes it very easy.
Yeah.
But again, you don't have to use them if you don't want to. You can certainly just come in with a tape arbor if you wanted to. But I know that's we'll get into that later. That's a hot button issue for sure.
All right, well, let's walk through kind of start to finish here, and we'll give y'all we're going to jump around a little. So bear with us. And when I mean jump around, we're going to jump a little bit between manufacturers, but we're going to walk you through from start to finish how I would set it up or how Hunter would set it up.
Yeah.
I assume we set it up the same way. I don't know.
I would hope so.
Why don't
I
we
guess
have
we'll find out.
Cool.
You kind of hinted this a few minutes ago. You know, you kind of want to start with your blank.
Yes.
You got to know what blank you're going to be using, and that kind of gets you that, and also kind of your handle layout, or at least the measurement to the the front edge of where your rear grip is going to fall.
Right.
Because that measurement right there, if you're doing, let's say, a 10-inch handle. Right.
Yep.
So a 10-inch handle, we would typically measure to the back of the rear seat.
Yes.
Or the front edge of the rear grip.
Right.
I guess you could say. So that measurement alone will help you determine if you're doing aluminum winding checks, where those need to fall. You know. So essentially, starting with your blank is a good reference point to kind of get the build started.
Of
right?
course.
And then from there, we can use calipers, or we can use the resources tab on Mudhole to kind of fine tune those measurements and figure out what we're going to need.
Yeah, because they are a very important part, especially if you're dealing with winding checks that don't flex.
Right.
Because the CRB snap-ins, if you are off a little bit on a measurement, and this has to slide down a little or it's got to slide up a little, these are made from silicone, and they are designed to stretch a little, conform a little, snap in there, move this way. You can cheat a little bit, right?
Right.
But there are winding checks, as we mentioned before, in this decorative setup here. These are a dimpled aluminum winding check. So you better be pretty close.
Yes.
If you're not where you need to be with these two little winding checks here, you're going to have a bad time because there's not a lot you can do there. So, like you had said, either measure it or use the resources tab. So let's walk you through that here. And I'm going to pull this stuff off here first. Because it's all dry fitted, which I always recommend doing. So we'll just leave the grip here, right? Okay. So if we're going to measure that, you're going to use your caliper. We're going to get 409, 406, something like that. Now, we know that the arbors that we use inside of these reel seats will be able to handle this size of a blank.
Right.
There are times where the blank starts to get to a point where you would eat this entire reamer up, and you still need to use it though, because it's got to be in here to make sure that it fits properly. The way we get around that is we always glue the arbor in first and then ream. Because there are times where I've seen people mention they tried to ream an arbor before they glue it in, and you almost end up with just dust in your hand because the size of the blank and how thin the arbor gets. It can get super, super thin and still be very effective. Yep. So just keep in mind, size of the blank, and then also work your way reaming when it's glued in. But we'll touch on that in a minute. So this is going to slide down, okay? Get that in there. Turn it around so we got our seam lined up on the bottom. Then, of course, having your location there, we've moved up a little. That's like 390. So then, of course, you'll order your winding checks. These are the CRB snap-in. They're silicones. And what you do not want to do is forget both of the winding checks.
Yeah.
That's what you do not want to do. So this first one will come in like this. Push it in there. And before you do the top one, always reverse it. So remember, you're going to have two winding checks just like that. Okay? So now that you have two winding checks like that, you will then ream your barrel to fit. And your barrel to fit will come down like that. All right?
That's it.
So that's it. That's the general overview on how all these kind of go together. And then we're going to walk you through each step.
Yep.
How about that?
Yep.
There are a couple questions I know floating around that we will get to about what is the magic number inside of here. Corey, that is, he asks, is there a golden number for the distance between split seats? So the magic number for me changes because it depends on where your seat is going to fall. Now I understand that you're not always going to have the right seat for every application or the right reel every time you build a fishing rod. They are very close though.
Yes.
I mean, this is a BG 2500. You can't expect this foot to be the same as a BG 6000. So that's out the window. But if you are building a spinning rod, let's say, that takes a 2000, 2500, 3000, pretty much all manufacturers are going to be close enough.
True.
And what you will learn is a little bit of dry fitting and a little bit of trust in your ability to estimate, because what is going to happen when you put these in here, if it's not glued up, you cannot lock this down or it will just back itself off. Okay? I can get it to where it will hold the reel, okay? But as I lock this down, see it moves the threading, right? See it moving the threading? All right. So you do have to estimate a little bit on, from holding the reel, how far is it going to then move, okay? In my experience, you can almost get a full turn out of it. Typically, right?
I'd say at least.
I mean, wouldn't you say a full to maybe,
Yep.
maybe a little more? Okay. So what you do not want to have happen is when you're setting this up, Corey, you don't want to be all the way out here before it's tight. Because that's maybe how you want it to look when the hood is kind of meshing right there with your winding check. But if it's right there now, when I go to tighten this, I'm going to push it back off of here. And you're going to have very, very little, let me back it off here. You have very little foot right there on the threads, and you really don't want that. So long story short, you're going to have to do a little bit of testing. You're going to have to see where this reel foot falls. You're going to have to estimate a little bit. You're going to have to, it also depends on how you want this to move, because if you have a foregrip in here, you got to be careful that this has to come this way enough so that you don't get locked in there. But if there's no foregrip out here, you might even be able to cut some threads off.
Ideally, that's what I prefer, at least, because
Right.
Obviously, if you're a type of person that holds your reel, forward,
Yeah.
right, then there's a chance that your fingers might actually touch some of these threads.
Sure.
And for me, that's extremely uncomfortable. I try to, at any cost,
Yeah.
try to eliminate those threads. And you can do that in multiple ways. If you wanted to change out this standard hood for more like we showed earlier, the Fuji, this style right here.
Yeah, the thread cover.
Or
right.
you can put, an EVA or a cork hood on top of this hood and glue
For
it
sure.
on. Then you can hide all those threads. So threads to me are a very uncomfortable part of the reel seat.
Right.
So anytime I can trim them off, shave them off, cover them up, that's ideal for me.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It would be, so if it was me, I would probably leave myself about that much thread, because I know I'm going to finish it out there. And let me get this thing zeroed. And from the threads to the back of the seat, we're at 1.2. And I feel pretty comfortable about that, knowing that we're still going to have some foot on the threads here, and it's not going to be, too far this way.
Yep.
That's, what are we going to do with that, right?
Right.
And then it's not too far the other way that I showed, because there's just not enough on there that would make me comfortable, you know, to have security.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you might be fishing and you might be like, oh, it needs to tighten a little more, and then you might run out of threads.
Yep.
And that is the worst possible thing.
And now this is a CRB seat, right? So a Fuji SK2, a Pac Bay Minima.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to use that 1.2. Now,
No.
you might get lucky and it might work, right? But
Sure.
the chances are, you know, each seat has its own design, shape. They're going to be a little different. So
They are.
you could use 1.2 inches as a good reference for a CRB seat, but Fuji might have a little bit different measurement.
Yes, exactly. So we also have a CRB alignment tool. And if you look here to a 2500 seat, this alignment tool is about a mirror copy of this 2500 seat that we have on this Daiwa. So if you don't have the reel that you're going to be using, and you don't have a fishing reel at all, or maybe you are an offshore builder and you have a bunch of big reels and you don't have something in this, this is a very inexpensive tool. It, of course, is under the link there. That is the CRB alignment tool, and that is something that you can drop in, just like I did this seat, and it will give you a fairly accurate, something that I would trust to build it from this alignment tool.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're stuck, if you don't have the proper size spinning reel, you know, trust me, you can't just use a 6,000 and expect it to be the same size as a 3,000. But the CRB alignment tool does a great job for subbing in for that size.
Yes.
You know, and of course, this is not an alignment tool that is merely spinning only, because we also have it here for casting. And again, let's see if I can hold this. So this is a casting reel, low profile bait caster. I know that's hard to see, guys. I apologize, but it's kind of tucked under there with a low profile seat. So this is just a Daiwa Tatula. A lot of the people are using this in a bass rod. So if you don't have the Tatula, or you're throwing Abu Garcia or Shimano, whatever you got, CRB alignment
that covers
tool
them all,
has
almost.
not lied
Yeah.
yet. So
And
pretty.
it's also an alignment tool. It's
It
kind of
is.
a two-in-one
It does.
thing.
It's got a little, got your little look-see down there. So you can leave it in the seat. You can help, you know, align your guides with it and then move on. So it is a multi-purpose tool.
Also, the third thing it really helps with, and we haven't got there yet, but we need you to go actually glue up your reel seat, making sure that your fixed hood and your sliding, or your, you know, the hood that's on your threaded barrel, use that alignment tool, put it in there, and make sure those pieces line up, because that's a looked over part of the deal that a lot of people forget about.
It really is.
You know, they slide the pieces down, they glue them in place, they're all ready to go, but they don't actually check to make sure these are lined up. And you come back the next day and you're off
It's a mess.
center.
Yeah. You know, the good news about that is it only happens once, typically.
It's very true.
Typically, you then get locked in and go, wow, that is something that I'm
never miss that one.
going to do again. Speaking of that, though, if that was to happen, you would fix it like you would fix a spinning reel seat that has broken away. You would drill holes. You know, we have shown that on the repair show before.
Yeah.
So I would do my best to take heat or some steam or something to it to break that bond loose, and then you would drill pinholes in the seat and use pro glue through the syringe. Look back through some of the old shows that we've done. It's under the rod repair episode, fixing a reel seat. So if you did that and you can get that threaded barrel section loose, just reset it.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully you don't have all your guides on either. So if you happen to have to, you know, cut that top portion off, so be it.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got plenty of extras here.
Yep.
So, how about Don? Can you ream the reel seats to make them fit better? Don, you can ream really any of these, honestly. You don't have a lot of room on the threaded barrel sections because there's just not a lot of meat there, because those are a size 16 threaded seat, and there's not a lot of wall thickness there.
Right.
In the section, in the rear section, whether it is a casting seat where there is a trigger, or there is the section where it is in the spinning, there's a little more meat there. And again, I had mentioned on the Pack Bay Minima that it is fitted. So again, if you're in between a 12.5 or a 13, or I think these go all the way down to like a 9.
I think so.
And they go up to maybe like a 15?
I think at least a 14 or 15.
Yeah, so there's a very wide range of the Pack Bay Minimas. You can ream these a little bit. So if, let's say, you're at 12 3/4 on your millimeters, buy the 12.5. Do not buy the 13, because you can touch it up with one of the CRB Extreme reamers and get it to fit nice and snug. So, you want to give something away, or you want to hit a question?
Let's do a giveaway, and then I'll get at least one of the 2 of those questions. Those are pretty good.
Perfect.
All right, so giveaway number 1. We have our CRB skeleton reel seats. I'll try to hold these. It's not too easy.
Yeah.
So we have the casting and the spinning version, right?
Yep.
2 different ones. And
SXO and CXO.
Yep, SXO.
Perfect.
Sorry, Steve, it's not a good angle there. That's a little bit better.
How we doing on the feed?
We good? Not really sure.
Yeah. Stand by just a second.
There
All
we
right.
go. We good to go now?
Cool. We lost our ugly mugs on the screen there for a minute. We
All right.
didn't want to.
I think we're back. So anyway, giveaway number 1 of the night, guys. 2 CRB skeleton reel seats, 1 spinning, 1 casting.
Perfect.
And that is going to go to lucky winner.
Scroll up to
winner,
the top
guys.
there. Where's the winner?
There we go. DJ Rawlings from Facebook.
And
And
we'll do
Sporty from YouTube.
Add a YouTube.
Sporty. Sporty actually has a question I want to get to. If we can switch back that screen, please. Perfect. All right. His question was, is there an issue with flex if you're catching large fish like snook or bull reds? Honestly, I wouldn't have any issue as long as you do the appropriate steps like we're going to talk about. Arbors, great glue bonds, arbors, that's stuff like that, you know, that there where you won't have any issues down the road, whether you be catching, you know, huge redfish. You might want to upgrade to that 17 size like the Fuji offers, you know, a little bit bigger reel seat. It's going to have more surface area, you know, in the fixed hood, the threaded barrel, to give you that better glue bond to your blank. So that would be my recommendation on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in addition to that, I would also, Sporty, pay very close attention to be sure that you don't sell yourself short on those threads.
Yeah.
Make sure when you are setting it up that your distance in here is a good distance, that when it's tightened down, that, you know, you're not choked way down where your reel foot is only sitting on like 1 thread. You know, you want it, and I understand the desire to have it where the hood is extremely close to the winding check, because right there, the way that is, it looks incredible, right? The hood's right down there. So I would always like it to be a smidge this direction, the way it sits now when it's tight. So just don't sell yourself short on the threads, because that would be the only time that I would worry about it. Maybe losing grip or getting any kind of wobble or getting yourself in trouble like that. But outside of that, those seats are locked.
Yeah. Yeah, because more than likely you're probably using a 5,000, 6,000, you know, you're not using a 2,500.
Right.
So like Chris said, a little more security with those extra threads. And I don't know, do you think there's any, is there any real size you would stop at using these seats? Maybe like a 10,000. I think you're probably getting a little too much.
I guess. I would probably be more concerned about, you know, how much drag pressure and what you're catching.
Yeah.
You know, because like when we had the guys down in Stewart, I mean, Taylor and Guffey were probably using a 4,500 or a 5,000 catching sailfish, but we're using 20-pound leader.
Right.
So it's not like we've got the drag locked, you know, and yeah, they're screaming drag and fish is jumping and it's going crazy, but you know, we weren't trying to pull like a Goliath grouper up off the bottom with a locked drag.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, if you're going to catch kingfish or sailfish or something like that, and you don't have the drag pressure just the highest that it'll go.
Right.
I don't think you're going to run into any kind of issue on the size of fish. I think it's going to be a little more geared to what kind of leader and drag pressure. So yeah.
All right. Let's talk about Arbors.
Yes.
We've kind of touched on it a few times here or there.
Right. I think it's time we need to dive in.
Yeah. So we talked about, obviously, the Fuji sets come with Arbors, right? So these will fit right into, well,
I got you.
So it comes with 2 Arbors.
Yep.
Right? One will go into our threaded barrel. It fits in just like that. I'm not going to
Don't push it in all the way.
I'm not going to. I know that.
That is a warning.
I know.
You've heard it here first.
You can take a pin and probably push it, but it's a very good tight fit there.
Yes.
It's when it goes in, it's not just going to pop out easily.
No.
So that's one for our threaded barrel, and then obviously we're going to have one for our fixed hood, which is going to go. It's going to mate up to our rig rack.
Yeah.
And so obviously it fits in there just like that.
Yeah.
And that one's a little bit easier because you got some space on each side to push it.
Yeah.
The threaded barrel, you can't really.
That one you might get, Jay may or may not witnessed me getting it trapped in there when I was trying to glue them up.
Yeah.
Now, there is one part before we move on that I want to touch on about these Fuji ones. I don't necessarily think there is a right or wrong direction to put these, right? But they do have a distinct shape.
They do, and that's great. That gives you, in my opinion, a little bit better glue bond.
Yes.
You almost have these little valleys, this little reservoir, this little dip in the material that allows you to put a little bit extra glue in there.
Yes.
So that's a benefit for sure.
Now, also, you will notice that, let me get this thing spun around right. So I'm holding this piece, and I'll try not to run around on you, Steve. So that direction is the rod tip, okay? Mm-hmm. I put this in this direction here, okay? See if I can do this. All right, so this, the way it sits like this, and it's a lower piece in the front here, okay? That goes in this way. Whoa, I knew I was gonna do that to you, Steve. Here we go. That goes in that direction, all right? The reason that I do that is because this piece in the back is a little more flush and the grip mates up to it. And we have a SK version of the MHX that will fit this. Now, when you come around here to the front, you notice it's very hard to see on camera, but you saw the way it's shaped. There is an indentation around the rim of this here, and Fuji makes a winding check that is called a WCS, right?
Yep.
Mr.
Correct.
Purchase Guy?
Correct.
WCS that snaps in here. CRB also makes a snap-in winding check. Will you hand me one of those guys there? So you have to remember that there is a slight lip, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but there is a slight lip on the back side of this winding check. And that actually will go around the arbor and snap in. Okay, yeah, hold it right there because I want to pull that out. All right. So see, there is a tiny little lip there. I think that's about as good as we're going to get. Yep. There's a tiny little lip, and then you see there is a little gap around that arbor, whereas on this side, there is no gap, okay? So this side, there is a gap. And that's why I put them in that way, because then this snaps in, because then this is the direction of the inside of the winding check. So you'll have a winding check there, a winding check on this side, and then your barrel seat out there. So that is why we do that. Good? Perfect.
Awesome.
Moving on.
Yep.
So it's the little things.
It is. It really is. It's small little details, which I know you talked about before, but I'm just going to say it again. The decision whether to glue the arbors into the seat, first, or ring them first. And obviously we are pro glue first than, the opposite way.
Oh, yeah.
So
hang on, I think there's one over here. All right. So this is one that I tried my darndest not to completely tear up. And you can see there's some pretty thin wall going on there. Okay, that's reamed out. Now the problem with this is when you are trying to hold this and manipulate this.
Doesn't take much, if anything.
And
yeah. So that's why, that's why.
And we start over.
Yep, and there's more.
There it is, it's coming on and everything.
So, moral of the story, glue first.
Glue first.
Then ream them. Because no matter what, you're still gonna have a little bit of material. You're not gonna have to worry about crumbling that arbor,
yes.
Whatever might happen. So
exactly.
Glue your arbors first, whether it's these little guys, right?
Yep.
Or whether it's a long one like this, which you can also cut into sections. So you can take our RSA arbors, and you can cut them into any shapes. I'm not going to do that one, but go for it.
So yeah, you can take,
just
Steve,
like these.
You can take a razor blade, and then what I do is you take the barrel section that you're going to be using, and I allow a little leeway, because if you notice, we have plenty of arbor here to play with. I allow a little leeway in the top and the bottom of this. So I actually put the arbor in, and then I'm going to take it back to the table, okay? And I make sure that I can get about 1/4 of an inch in this end down here, and then I give it just a little bit more to about 1/2 inch. So then you're going to have 1/4 on this end and 1/4 on this end, okay? So I'm eyeballing this. This does not have to be rocket science. And then I mark it with a razor blade, okay? So now it's marked, and then I just pull it out, and it just easily cuts just like that, okay? So then now, you've got a piece that goes in here, and it gives you a little leeway on either side in case you get a little wild with the glue, or in case you're putting in snap-in, winding pieces, winding checks, things like that. And then now, push this guy out. Now, you would then glue that in. And of course, you can score this a little if you want.
Sure.
If you want to take a key or one of these picks, you can put indentions in it similar to the Fuji. I've never noticed that mattering with these. They really do a good job. Once you get them coated in glue, slide them in there, clean it up, make sure it's not all on the threads. I've never had an issue with that. And you know that I'm not an arbor guy.
It's very true.
And I still haven't had an issue with them.
Very true. Yep. So, like we said, obviously you want to glue first, whether you're using the Fuji ones that kit comes with, whether you make your own little sections of arbor, glue them first, because all of these arbors are not exactly round. There could be a little bit off on one edge, whatever it may be. So if you just take that arbor and ream it out, right, and then go to put it on your seat or glue it in your seat, a lot of room for error there.
Sure.
So, but if you glue it first, and now you know, okay, that's what the piece I'm working with.
Perfect.
Now you can ream it, slide it down. It's going to fit perfect.
And you can ream them very quickly.
Yes.
So you can fly through that. So yes, you can still use a drill to ream your arbor, but do not hold it and lean on it, because you will fly through that arbor.
Yeah.
And I always try to do a little bit on one side and turn it around and do a little more, because it's easy, to get off like this or off like this. And of course that is an exaggeration, but you can get you an oblong hole.
Yep.
And then once you screw that up, now you're just back at tape arbors to try to fix the hole.
Exactly.
When you.
Yep. Good point there for sure. All right, so that's arbors. We talked about winding checks a little bit,
Yeah.
But the big thing with winding checks is kind of decide what type of winding check do I want, right?
Yes.
Do I want one of the silicone or one of the rubber winding checks that has a little more stretch to it? Or do I want an aluminum winding check?
Yeah.
That's where you got to decide what type of winding check you want. And obviously if it's aluminum, you're going to need to have a little bit more detailed measurements, Even like the Fuji WCS, those are more of like a plastic material,
Yes.
right? So again, they don't stretch, they're kind of in the middle, but they still lean towards the aluminum of just not stretching that much.
Right.
So you're going to have to get those, measurements of, some type of distance right in here. Obviously, without having the parts in hand, sometimes that's a little difficult.
For
but with our resources tab and sales reps, if you know what to call in, and
Exactly.
ask for a measurement, that's no big deal. So aluminum checks, aluminum winding checks, even these WCS snap-in checks from Fuji, you're going to need to kind of dial in those measurements and know what you're working with.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Now the good news is they're not crazy expensive, and if you're somebody that does a lot of these style seats, it would be a good idea to have a few on hand.
Yep, absolutely.
No doubt, because you just don't, like you said, you just don't have as much room for error there. What else? Is that it? I think that is all we got to do now. Is now we got to move on to gluing. But we need to give something else away.
Yeah. Ronald's actually got a good question. I know you touched on it a little bit. The Arbors, Ronald Williamson. The Arbors ream so easy. How do you keep the hole straight? And basically what I would say, or what I would recommend is, for one, go very slow.
Yep.
Like you said, don't try to just horse it through there. It takes very little pressure.
Yep.
And you can easily go from an Arbor that's 250 ID to 500 in a snap.
Quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
So make sure you're obviously using the right size reamer. Start with the smallest one if you're just starting with an Arbor.
Yep.
Use the smallest size. Don't try to jump sizes and go too fast.
Yep.
That'd be a couple tips that I would recommend.
You can also just use your hand.
Do that too.
You can still use these as a hand reamer. They come with a piece that screws on here, looks just like the back end of a screwdriver. But if you're like me and you're just bent on using the drill,
power tool.
Most of the time, when I'm reaming, if you go at it like this, you really need to do a little bit at a time. So I go a little bit at a time, and then I always allow myself to do a little bit of a ream and then add a quarter turn, add a little more of a ream with a quarter turn, and do that. Because if you get in a groove of just like this without rotating it, you will work an oblong hole. Yes. That's actually pretty good. I'll stop there since I'm on camera. Yeah. But that is a pretty good, tip. I was taught that way, is to ream a little bit and give it a quarter turn, ream a little bit and give it a quarter turn. Sometimes this helps me, coming at it like this, holding it, and I can manipulate it back and forth, and it allows me not to force into it too much. Yep. So that's an option. But those are a couple reaming tips.
Yeah, reaming it vertically seems to be more, I'm not gonna say precise, but more consistent as far as the bore goes. When you start doing it horizontally and you tend to maybe move up and down, that's where you can get
you can kind of get a little bit of angle without paying attention. And that's where I try to, buy in a little insurance by giving it a quarter turn at a time type thing.
Yep.
So
cool.
Yep.
You say you want to do a giveaway, or you got another question?
Let me hit Brandon's question here. Can you use the Pack Bay trigger with the Fuji hood? So, Brandon, here is what I'm going to say about that. As long as you're using the Fuji hood with the Fuji threaded barrel, I'm almost going to say that it's a direct, as long as I'm hearing you correctly, you want to use this piece here, and then you want to use a Fuji hood here. Now, if it was me, I would still buy the threaded piece. And I know that you're probably trying to get around that because they sell Fuji hoods separately. But at least for the first one, you might want to do a test run with it, because the threading to me looks very similar. You also are going to have a rear channel on this Pack Bay seat, just like the Fuji seat, but we would have to go through and do an exact measurement. Where's that KSK? Can I have that one? I mean, we're going to do it right now, but
what?
No, this guy here.
Nope.
Because I'm just going to assume that he's probably going to want. I'm assuming you're going to want like a fancy hood like this and not just the standard hood, because otherwise you would just use the pack bay one. Feels pretty good. I feel like there's a little more wobble than.
There might be, and yeah, and that's where that that threaded barrel probably comes into play.
Doing it live, folks. It's close. I will say the rear channel on the pack bay, that's almost twice as wide.
Yes.
So all of these reel seat barrels have a channel on the back that keeps the reel seat aligned, the hood aligned. Mm-hmm. And the Fuji one has a considerably thinner channel here in the back. And maybe that's why it fits a little tighter, because it looks like, I mean, the pack bay one, it doesn't look like it needs that wide of a channel.
I don't think so, no.
You know, because let's see if this one fits. Let's see if it goes the other direction. Yeah, it fits the Fuji one. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why the channel on the back of that pack bay one is as wide as it is. It's not perfect both ways, but I do think it will fit. So anyway, long story short, I still might buy the.
I would test it for sure.
Yeah. I would maybe build yourself one, glue it up completely, and actually go and fish it. And excuse me, don't just test it like, you know, like we're doing here and call it good, because you will notice that the threading, not the threading's all that different, but that rear channel is different. Yeah. So that just makes me think that.
And that little bit of excess wobble, or I guess play you could call on the hood,
yeah,
could possibly lead to a reel slipping out,
or if it
loose.
Yeah, if it just constantly got loose, would be the biggest pain in the butt. It would be so annoying. Even if you didn't lose the reel, it would just be like, I'd be fired up. So we don't need that. So yeah.
So we're not saying no, but we're also not saying yes.
Yeah, I'm not giving you 100%. I would glue it up and try it.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Perfect. All right. Before we leave the Arbor situation, we've talked so much about Arbors. Let me talk here real quick about the tape arbor. So if you're like me and you don't love graphite or the polyurethane?
Yes.
Okay. If you don't like those arbors as much, with the pack bay minima seat, especially, the rear portion of this is fitted to the blank. Yes. So you don't need any arbors back here. If you don't want to mess with arbors and you just want to lock this threaded barrel down and you're using a pack bay, I just use a tape arbor. The reason for that is you can put a couple tape arbors here. You got plenty of room to put 2 tape arbors under here with glue. Never fails you. You don't have to worry about, you know, reaming out an oblong hole and getting mad at yourself. And then, you know, the winding checks just lock in here and you're done. All you got to do is make sure that this is all in line here and you're ready to rock. But the pack bay minima seat is a good example of getting away with a tape arbor because you don't need an arbor in the rear section. Right. And what I mean by that is this being the Fuji spinning seat rear, it's not as long here, right? So you don't have as much to work with. If you wanted to use this size tape, I wouldn't recommend using that size tape because you're taking up the entire almost thing. And you really, if you're going to use tape arbors, you really need to use more than one arbor. That's what centers it. Yeah. Because that's all the tape is doing is centering it. So you either need to drop down to a much thinner tape size, which then can just be a headache to work with.
Right.
So if you're going to use the tape arbors, use it up under the threaded barrel. Otherwise, use your Fuji included arbors or cut you one and glue it in. But always glue first.
Right.
Sweet.
Let's do a giveaway.
Yep, let's do it.
All right, so we have the SK2 color reel seat, very popular. Also, we're going to throw in some Pro Paste and plastic mixing trays.
That'll work.
So we got, what do you have here? Stephen Bryce Jr.
Sweet, coming out of Facebook.
Out of Facebook. Congratulations, Stephen.
That'll work.
Awesome.
All right, it's not too bad.
No.
The good news is I've got a colored one.
Oh,
So yeah,
like a metallic orange. Very cool,
Yeah.
very cool.
that's what you're gonna get. Pretty sharp.
Match that up to a metallic
Copper.
copper.
Yep.
MHX point.
Mm-hmm. The little thread work there.
Yeah.
This is not mine. I cannot take credit for this. This is one coming out of the showroom. So
Yeah.
I believe Victor did this.
If I had to guess, I would probably say.
Yeah, with this thread work, if I had to guess, it would be a Victor Joseph piece for sure. So we appreciate that, and that's what you're going to get. We got a couple colors, right?
We have several colors. I think up to
Orange
maybe
and blue, and that's all I care
They're
about.
offhand. But they do come in
Orange
spin,
and blue.
spin and cast. So
That's it. I don't think they come in black or gold or anything like that, right?
I don't think so.
Go Gator.
Double check on that.
All right. Let's scroll down. Is there any more questions before we talk about the final piece of this puzzle? Larry, any opinion on how this would fare on a deep sea rod? We touched on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to be concerned more about the drag pressure on that rod that you've got. You know, again, if you're doing a kingfish or a sailfish rod, I want to say we run like 3.5 to 4 pounds of drag. I'm probably comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You know, 4 pounds of drag with 20-pound line class, 3 pounds of drag, 20-pound line class, something like that. I'm probably pretty comfortable, you know, handling one of those. Size 17, as you mentioned.
For sure.
But outside of that, I'm probably not bolting one of these onto my snapper rod that's a 50-pound class rod.
Yep.
Just not, I'm not doing it.
Any application where you're turning that drag down to all the way.
Yeah.
That's,
And just winching on it. Because at that point, what do you need the sensitivity for?
Yeah.
You know, you're not holding a big giant conventional reel where you're like, oh, I got the sensitivity right there in the exposed seat. I know maybe for the decorative part of it, but yeah, I would stay away from that. I would just hate for you guys to do all that nice work on a heavier offshore rod class and then have something that, you know, would be a weak link. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Scott Peterson, what's the best size thread for the internal wrap on a skeletonized type handle? Skeletonized, I like that. Should have used that earlier. You can use any size thread that you're already going to be using on your rod. So if you're wrapping your guys with size A, you can use size A. If you're doing with D, use D. You don't have to use anything particular or specific. Any size thread will generally work.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, is it better to use denatured alcohol or 91% when adding the reel seat? You know, I have 70% and 91. This one's 91 here. It's always done well. I've also used 70. I use that. Either use 70 or 91 to clean up with. I use denatured alcohol in like an alcohol burner. So, yeah, that's that. So.
All right, I think we needed a close-up.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking for a close-up on the epoxy full grip. So there it is.
Yeah. Now that rear grip goes way back, right? That was when we had, did we used to have that weaving type carbon?
I do not remember, to be honest with you. Not that I'm aware of. I'm not sure what that material comes from.
Gotcha.
Don't
Now, you could do that with the CFX custom grip, though.
Very well could.
So that would be something that you could use, what is it called? Don't we have a CFX,
Like the 3K weave?
yes, but it comes in a complete kit, though.
It does.
So you'll get the inner core, you'll get the skin, and then you will get the epoxy to glue it, and then you'll just use your Pro Coat to finish it. So that's what that is. Yep. Sweet.
Cool.
Joe, I'd like to do this over a hydro-dipped rod. Should it be coated before mocking up? Joe, if I'm doing this over a hydro-dip, yes.
Yep.
I'm going to coat it, and give yourself a little bit of leeway on either side, because you can always scratch that hydro dipping off to improve your glue bond if you're outside of the line a little bit. For example, if you're with this seat here and you want this inside to be hydro dipped, I would just tape it off out here, and then I'd tape it off to up here, and then these components will cover up the excess hydro dipping, but definitely dip it before you install all of these handle pieces. So, yep.
All right, let's talk about how to glue up some of these parts.
Let's do it.
So obviously, a couple different options. You could use like a Pro Paste. You could use like a Pro Glue.
Yep.
Right? So Pro Glue does have a little bit of advantage here, in my opinion. Now, I love Pro Paste, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the ability of Pro Glue in a liquid form does have an advantage when trying to get in some of these small little nooks and crannies when you're putting these seats together.
Yeah.
Because we are obviously dealing with a little bit smaller components. We're not dealing with, a 7-inch full grip or, a larger full-length casting grip, right? Or casting seat. So Pro Glue might have its advantages somewhere, but if it comes down to it, at the end of the day, I'm going to try to use Pro Paste wherever possible. Because for me, Pro Paste gives a better glue bond. But not to say Pro Glue wouldn't work.
I'm going to agree with you there. I probably just get used to using Pro Paste so much that, I have Pro Glue on the workbench, and it does make its appearance here and there, but I probably could use it more. Yeah. In all reality, I probably should use it more for some of the, tighter spaces like this. I think it's good because it will move, as you wish.
Yep.
So, all right, let's talk about. So we cut the arbors, and now we're ready to glue. What is your opinion on? Are we putting glue inside the seat? Are we just putting it on the arbor? What is your what's your plan of attack here?
First, and this goes for any rod whatsoever. So not only will I do like a full mock-up of this, I'm also putting China marks or an edge of tape to mark where each piece of my real seat configuration or handle configuration stops.
Okay.
So whether
I think that one actually might have it too.
Yeah, let's just check in here.
Because I think I used the, and those might have rubbed it off.
Oh, So I see you got a little mark right here.
Because I used the black China marker on the white blank.
And black China mark, yep. So, and that's just a good reference. And again, I personally usually opt for tape over China mark.
Okay.
For that very reason. Yeah. Now again, you can come in with an arbor and put it there, and of course you're going to know where that edge is going to stop. That's all well and good.
Right.
But in some cases you're not really able to put in arbors like this because maybe you want to slide this one off, so you're not ready to do that yet, right?
Yeah.
So I usually come in with a piece of masking tape at every edge possible.
Okay.
Even like this minimalist seat, I would probably put one down here at this very edge.
Okay.
At the end of my rear grip.
Because the grip's got to go first.
Exactly. So I know that's going to stop right there.
Perfect.
Okay. I'd probably put one up here.
Yep.
Where my grip meets my real seat, right?
Where that China mark is?
Yep, where that China mark is, yeah. I'm going to put that on there, right? I'm probably going to put one where my real seat stops, right? And wherever your real seat edge stops, you're probably going to have a winding check there too, right? So I would do a mark here, I would do one here. Yep. So that when I take everything off, I know where all these parts and pieces fall.
It's there.
I don't have to guess at it. It also helps in your reaming too, to have those pieces of tape, that China mark, in those certain angles, or not angles, in those spots. That way when you slide these grips down, you're not taking a measuring tape or a ruler and checking it every single time.
Not every time, yeah.
You know where it stops, you're good to go, it saves time.
Yep.
But anyway, to get back to it, I'm going to lay out each little China mark, each little piece of tape to where those sections fall or place or wherever.
Perfect.
From there, what I usually like to do is, if I'm working with a grip, obviously I'm going to put a little bit of glue inside there, but really what I'm going to do is put most of it, up in this portion right here, to where I slide that grip down. Yeah. And as I, move it down, I'm also turning it, right? So when it hits this portion to where some of the stuff is going to fall, I'm catching all that glue on the way down.
For sure.
Right? And you can do that with certain pieces of your real seat too, just not as easy because you're dealing with much less surface area.
No doubt.
Right? So for those, I will typically put a little more glue inside of those pieces.
Okay.
And maybe a little bit down here to where that area is going to fall, right? A little bit trickier. And even for the arbors, I'll put a little bit of glue in there as well.
Sure.
But really, I almost use the blank as sort of a squeegee, you know? So I'll put a little bit of glue, you know, right above where that piece is going to fall.
Right.
That way when I slide it down, I can also rotate that part and kind of squeegee that glue from the blank to whether it be the arbor inside of here or this grip, whatever that may be. Because there's certain areas, you know, even of this grip, you're not going to be able to get glue all the way inside of there.
No.
You can, it might take a few extra minutes, but the reason I put it on the blank, at least the majority, is when I slide it down, I know that grip is going to catch all that glue on the way down.
Sure.
Now, I'm not putting it up here in this area, right?
Yeah, that's too high.
I'm going to put it down here.
For sure.
And a few inches above, that way when it comes down, it catches all that glue.
Nice.
So that's how I would do it.
Perfect.
What do you got?
So in addition to that, I will touch on, and we had mentioned the doing the arbors. So I have the arbor glued inside of this seat, and let me see what I'm working with here. So, whoop. Might have to zero that out, that'll help. All right, so I have 200 on that side, 221 on that side. So that's 0.200 and 0.21. So on the inside, I have left a gap. And I had mentioned that before, cutting it a little short. You can kind of catch the edge of that there. So similar to what Fuji does with their arbor, I do on this one, and I purposely leave it that gap in there. Because what you were touching on about it creating a squeegee effect, we definitely want glue between the blank and the arbor on the inside, but I do like the edge seal where there is, as you slide this down the blank, it's going to collect the glue somewhat.
Right.
And then your winding check is waiting there for you as you come down the rod blank, and then you'll learn how much glue it kind of takes so that then when you press that winding check in there, it not only does it seal that off, it glues your winding check to it. It also locks all that glue in there. And then what you do is I will then take my popsicle stick and turn it on its edge and add some glue to the blank and then scrape it, turn it on its side, scrape it down into the top here. Yep. Come with the final winding check or a foregrip if I'm using that, and allow that to push and force glue down into here. So what it does is it gives a little bit of glue room on either side of the arbor to kind of lock it in. Plus, you're also not worried about if there's no room for glue there and then you lock everything together.
It's going to come out.
Yeah, it's just going to come out and it's just going to be a mess. So I allow for a little bit of wiggle room, or we'll call it glue room, for the arbor there. So that would be my tip on gluing it.
Yeah. Another tip I would give is apply tape to both ends of your threaded barrel.
Yeah.
Because even on a larger, like full seat, it's a little bit easier to get that glue off, right? For one, because by that time you're kind of done gluing, your seat is more than likely pretty stable,
Sure.
right? With a full seat.
Right.
With a split seat, you kind of have your entire threaded barrel that's disconnected.
Yes.
It's much more likely to move, and when you come in, if you built a rod, you know how much of a pain it is to try to get glue off of a threaded barrel.
No doubt.
It's hard.
100%.
So even with a split seat, it's even harder because this little portion will tend to move a little bit easier. So
right.
Take your masking tape and just kind of seal off both sides of your threaded barrel.
You want me to hold this?
Yeah, just real quick.
Yep.
I'm not going to do this exact. I'm just going to kind of show you guys real quick. Just a couple turns. And you want to get it as close to that edge as possible. But just something as simple as this tape on the edge. So that way when you are finished gluing, and if you do have excess glue, you know, say from your winding checks, or, you know, you push this threaded barrel down and a little bit of glue happens to pop out of that edge, it's not going to catch on this tape and not on the threaded barrel itself. And when you're done, peel the tape off and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Just helps that cleanup process a little bit more.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Sweet. That's a good tip. I can dig it. Before we do the final giveaway, before we move on, we need to show a couple guys requested this rod to be shown also with a reel in it. So.
And you'll notice this one is up-locking.
Yeah, I was
right?
going to say, we talked about that earlier.
And I don't think we have, well, I could use this as an example. Obviously 2 different brands, right? So this is our CRB, this is our Fuji. But with at least these 2 brands of spinning split seats, you can do an up-locking or a down-locking reel seat.
You can technically do that. Absolutely. Cool.
This depends on your preference.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. And, you know, like you said, this one I like up-locking because if you do hold it a little farther forward, you're out this direction on this. It's kind of an ergonomic shape. And then, of course, you got a really nice cork out here rather than being on, you know, this locking nut and the threads with it being reversed.
Yep.
So that's a nice one. And then you want to hold that one up.
Yep.
That's a casting seat in it. So yeah, you can see, you know, a lot of room under here, and then of course, you see that. And then when you hold it, you can see kind of the gaps under here. So I would hold it like that. You know, some people have 2 fingers there, some have these rear 2 if you're like really forward, but you got a couple on the rod blank there. So that's it.
All right, I'm going to do one more tip. Might be the most important tip of all night.
Well, you waited long enough.
Well, gotta wait till the end of the show.
Got to.
And then we'll do our last giveaway.
All right.
When you guys are gluing these seats, hence the name, 2-piece, skeleton, whatever it is, you're dealing with 2 pieces. Your fixed hood and the hood on your threaded barrel have to line up at the end of the day.
For sure.
They can't be a little bit off, can't be a little bit off this way. These have to line up. So when you're done gluing, everything is set. Do one last check, almost like if you were to do before you put finish on your guides.
Oh yeah.
Triple check, quadruple check, however many times it takes. Make sure that these 2 pieces are lined up, or else you're going to come back and not be very happy.
No, you won't.
But you can always fix it. Like you said earlier, you're only going to do it one time.
Only going to do it once. That's exactly right. All right, so what did we forget? Did we forget anything? We talked about spacing. We talked about what pieces go when. Don't forget the winding check on the inside, because most of the time you need to, unless you use that pack bay minimum seat. Talked about sizing it, spacing it, you know, where the golden measurement is. I don't know. Just, you know, we walked you through that on how to measure it. I would also make notes. When you're building with this minima seat, and I used a 2500 size seat, this is the gap that I used. You know, that was something that was given to me a long time ago from a very, very experienced rod builder. You know, this guy's somebody that probably, you know, he's forgotten more than I'll probably ever know, but you know, I think making notes in a little bit of a journal for things like this is very important, because then you won't get in a bind where you don't have a certain reel. Or if the guy calls and he says, well, I don't have the reel yet, but this is what I'm putting on it, and you don't have that, you might have it in the notes, you know, if you build enough and you take good enough notes. I never took good enough notes in high school, so here we are. Yeah. But, you know, I would take notes on some of this stuff. And then, you know, you'll be able to replicate it from here on out, depending on where you want all that to fall. So, yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. You want to give something away?
Let's do it.
You want to do the final?
The final giveaway of the night. This is a good one.
So we're doing a CRB Color Series Ultralight with an SK2 seat and CRB snap-in winding checks. So you saw the CRB snap-in winding checks. You have seen a CRB Color Series rod. We do them in ultralight, and I will say, you know, everybody's like, oh, how heavy of a rod can I use the skeleton style seat on this? When you go the other way and you put them on an ultralight, they get real nice, real quick.
That's where they shine for sure.
They really do. I know that you know, a couple of the guys have built some pretty lightweight stuff, and it's lightweight. Yep. So we're going to give that away to You Bet Your Bass I Yak on YouTube. So Bet Your Bass I Yak coming out of YouTube. Congratulations. Hopefully you can tote that CRB ultralight around in that yak and catch some bass, maybe some crappie, you know, some bluegill. So, yeah.
Maybe he's a redfish trout guy. Never know.
Absolutely.
He'll cover up.
Hey, maybe he'll be betting his brim he yaks or betting his panfish, whatever. We definitely want to see some of the stuff that we give away. You guys got to build it. Run over there to the Rod Builders Workshop on Facebook. In that group, we're barreling in on 15,000, I believe. I think I heard that in the Thunderdome today when we were chatting about it. So that is something that it's the best group. It's the biggest, it's the best. It's the Rod Builders Workshop. So, and of course, we got a photo contest going on.
We do. So it's about guide wraps this time.
Right.
And all you have to do is obviously submit your photos of your guide wraps in the Mudhole Limes Rod Builders Workshop.
Yep.
And hashtag build2win, the number 2.
The number 2. Fantastic. Yep. All the products tonight, we'll touch on this again. Everything we use tonight is in mudhole.com/MHL. Stands for Mudhole Live. Imagine that, right? So mudhole.com/MHL. All the pieces and parts we went over tonight, it's an easy. You can run right there to that page, start adding stuff to your cart, and go wild. So, yeah. What else? Anything else?
Our special contest of the night.
Oh, yeah. That was...
Guess the number of pounds.
Okay, that we shipped.
In March.
In March.
In pounds.
So, in pounds, yeah. Guess the number of pounds we shipped in the month of March. You're going to get a Mudhole gift pack. Put your guesses in the comments, and the winner will be selected tomorrow.
Awesome.
And that's YouTube and Facebook. So don't worry, there's no, social discrimination here, social media discrimination, whatever. You're all good. Put it in there. We're just happy to have you with us. So I think that's about it. Ooh, we're in under 8 o'clock. Going to get up there before the pizza gets too cold. All right, guys. So we, of course, had a couple of the support team. I think, was Sean in here tonight again? I know he did a good job last time. I think Sean from the support staff joined us again. We appreciate him helping in the comments. He adds a little extra technical support to those questions that y'all throw at us. And as always, keep them coming.
Absolutely.
So good job, Sean. And of course, the regulars in the war room. We got Guffey and we got Taylor. They're the guys that have been holding it down since day one in the war room. We had Steve on the Zoom camera tonight. Jay, of course, on the 1s and 2s. Hunter, my left-hand man, as always. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, me too.
So thank you, everybody. Congratulations to the winners. And we'll see y'all in 3 weeks in the month of May.
Sounds great. Thanks for watching.
We'll see y'all next time.